Today I'm doing something a little different. I am driving to San Luis, Arizona, where a lot of my clients are being held. And I'll be driving with my Spanish-speaking interpreter, Ricardo, who is just a fantastic guy. He's super fun to be around. It makes the drive go by super fast. So my hope is to interview him today and make the drive even more fun for us. So stay tuned.
Oh, I didn't even realize I told her to watch it today. I'm going to be on a YouTube podcast.
Wait, is that cop right there? The one just sitting like normal?
I don't think that's a cop. But he hides like right here. Or right in front of that mountain, I think. Somewhere around here he stops. There ain't no way to hide your light. I thought by now you'd realize there ain't no way to hide your light. I love that song.
We got Ricardo in the car. He's stuck with me for the next 3 hours to San Diego.
I've been stuck with him for the last 6 hours, I think, on the way back. Yeah. It's good times, good times.
He's super fun. He's my first guest on this show.
Privileged.
So we'll go ahead and start with the show.
Well, let's see. If you can only see this beautiful scenery of where we're at right here, this beautiful desert.
No, we go to, Ricardo and I do most federal cases. Most of my criminal defense focus on that. Ricardo is a fantastic interpreter here in Southern California. He does interpret for a lot of other attorneys, but a lot of times we do have to go to San Luis, Arizona, which is roughly 4 hours away from San Diego, and you fill up your time by talking to each other. So it's nice to have him here, and it's good to have him for the show, because then it makes my drive easier and it makes him be entertained as well. And
I like it because I don't have to drive. Anton takes control of the wheel. It's a big relief.
Autopilot.
I'll be back here tomorrow. I'm going to be driving, so
I usually rent my cars when I drive, and this one is, we're not going to name the brand of the car.
We'll just call it a Bentley. Yeah, we'll call it a Bentley.
But it's a really shitty one. Yeah. It's a really shitty one. Yeah. Not happy with it. But that's what happens.
You got to admit, we should have ran out of gas, and we didn't.
Yes.
We made it to the gas station the car must have been just sucking up fumes or something, but we made it to the gas station when we thought we were going to run out of gas miles back. Yeah. So we owe it to the Bentley for that. You know?
And this gas station was literally in the middle of nowhere.
About $10 a gallon or something?
Yes, charging us $10 a gallon because they know that only idiots don't gas up in El Centro when they go to Yuma, Arizona.
Present company excluded, of course. Yeah. You know? It was just a coincidence for us that happened.
Yes. To us. And we also don't, it's a new car for us, so we don't know the gas mileage. Both of us are actually big car guys.
Right. Yeah, we are. I'm a huge car guy.
But you like modern cars more.
I like modern cars. I really like 80s cars. Those are my favorite cars. Anything 80s, well, except the Yugo GV, but anything 80s I like. Yeah. I like. And I'm always looking for, something fun that's 80s that's really good condition.
Tell me, what was your first car?
My first car was a 1989 Mitsubishi Mighty Max pickup. It was brand new. I was 16, and I begged my mom to sign for me. And back then, my payment on the car was $172 a month, and my insurance was $220 a month. So I was going to school and I was working basically just for the car. But I had some great time. I don't regret it.
What color was it?
Well, I'm colorblind, as you know. But I think it was like a royal blue, which I have no idea what that is. But
Sounds expensive though.
No, it was actually
Royal.
Well, yeah. So I think the Royal was probably the most expensive thing on the sticker price because it didn't have a radio, it didn't have a passenger side rearview mirror, it didn't have air conditioning, it didn't have power windows, it didn't have a back bumper, it didn't have hubcaps. It was basically just the body of the truck, the engine and transmission and everything in between, but nothing else.
But how long you've had it?
I had it for 3 years.
What happened?
3 years, and then I sold it, and I bought a lowrider, my '87 Buick Regal. I love that car. That was a good car, but then after it was, I called it the Fred Flintstone car because it stopped going in reverse, so I'd have to stick my foot out and back it up with my foot.
Is that a heavy car?
It's a heavy car. I can do that. I have very strong legs, especially the left one, and I think it's because I had that car for so long that it worked up my muscle on the left leg.
Yeah.
And I'm pushing it back.
I've had that happen to me. I had a 57, I think, Plymouth, and it was just about maybe 3 years ago. The roof of it was cut. It was a chopped roof, and the whole windshield was maybe like, I don't know, 5 inches, 10 inches. I had to duck the whole time when I was driving.
You couldn't comb your hair then?
No, I had to drive like this too.
Yeah.
I had all sideways. But one time I was on.
You can always lay down and drive it laying down.
That's basically what I did the whole time. One time I was going down 163. I come out Friars in San Diego. And that Friars exit is this like circle one, remember? You gotta go around it.
Right.
So as I come out, I'm now going up the hill. And because it's a 50s car, the gas needle is like tiny. So it's hard to read it. So I run out of gas. And now I'm on this like 3-lane road. I'm in the middle lane and I'm uphill. So I'm trying to figure out what to do, and I go, well, the only thing I can do is now put in neutral and back it out, and before the traffic comes in, so I can see the traffic coming up in the rear view mirror. I go in the back, go in reverse, and I basically end up being sideways, blocking the first lane and the second lane, which was much worse than just being in the middle lane.
Yeah, you went from bad to worse.
And then I stood there for a second until...
That's funny that you say that, though, because I remember I had that Regal. I bought the Regal when I was 19. So I got my truck when I was 16. And then I got the Regal when I was 19. I got lucky. I bought it from an older lady in LA. I found it in the newspaper. But, you know, I was very popular back then because I had a car, you know. And I had a lot of girls that called me, you know, the same reason, because I had a car. And I remember we used to put about $2 of gas in that Regal, and then we would cover up the gas gauge with like a little Saint that my mom gave us to put in the car so that I wouldn't see how low it was getting. We drove around all over San Diego in that car all the time, and I never ran out of gas. And we literally used to drive up to the gas station and put like $3.67 worth of gas, change, whatever we could. I didn't have money. I was broke. I don't think I was working at that time actually either, but so I started charging people, of course, whenever they needed rides, and whatever was left over was for me to drive around. But
this was in the 90s? This
was in the early 90s, 1993.
So you were like the first Uber.
Yeah, pretty much. I was the unofficial lowrider Uber.
You basically started Uber.
I started an Uber, yeah, except I knew these people. That, you know, it's funny because before, when I was 16, I didn't have that many friends. As soon as I got my car, I was one of the most popular guys in the school.
That's nice.
And I had all these friends, all these girls that wanted to go out with me that wouldn't even look at me before. Do you think it's because of the car?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was because I was good looking, but
no, it's the car.
It's the car, yeah.
But does it really matter?
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter.
As long as you have a lot of people that like you. It doesn't matter why they like you, right?
Yeah. It's like when you're like going through hard times, people always say, well, at least you know who your true friends are.
Right.
I'm going through shitty times. Do I need to know that?
Well, I'm your friend.
Yeah. But do I need to know? I don't need to know.
I don't think you think about that stuff when you're going through shitty times. You don't want friends. You just want to be left alone. At least I do, you know? Yeah. It's funny, like when someone dies, and they read a eulogy, they always talk about everything good that this person did. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
Oh, she was there. She was an animal lover. She gave a lot of money to here. She's on there. It's like when somebody asks me to do a eulogy for someone, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be like, she borrowed money from me and never paid me back.
Yeah, you won't be asked. No one's gonna ever ask.
Right.
You.
She used to spit logies like a man. She was gross, whatever. He was mean. But everybody that dies, it's like they always talk about the nice things about him, But anyways, back to the cars, though.
Yeah.
I was pretty popular because I had a car, and not very many kids in high school had cars back then. And I was one of the few Mexicans. I went to school in UC La Jolla. So moving from LA.
You were born in San Diego, right?
I was born in LA.
Okay.
Yeah,
when did you move to San Diego?
I moved to San Diego in 1990. I think when I was a sophomore. I went from literally East LA, going to school in East LA, Montebello, to going to school in La Jolla, and it was like a culture crash for me. It was like, and everybody was intrigued by me because I was like one of the very few Mexicans, and I was one of the Mexicans with the car, so there was even less of those. But yeah, that's I think why I had so many friends. Good times. It was good times. Great times.
Well, you're an interpreter now. How long you been in this?
June is going to be 26 years.
Do you still remember your first job?
I started when I was 10. I do remember my first job.
What was your first job?
When I was 16. So I remember very vividly. I wanted a car, and obviously there was 5 of us. My parents didn't have a lot of money, so they couldn't buy us cars. So I remember going to the career center at school, and I saw there was an advertisement there for a job at Nutrisystem.
Okay.
And I thought, wow, I think they have pretty good food there, so it might be fun to work there, But it turned out to be diet food. And I didn't work, what I was doing was, it was close to my school, it was in La Jolla off of Regent's Park, and I worked in the stock room. So I basically stocked the room with food, and then when people would come in to go to their classes or whatever they did, they bought a bag of food, and I used to fill the orders. And that was a really cool job. I did that for about 3 years, I think. 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, for about 3 years. And it paid for my truck. It paid for a lot of fun times with girls and, friends. But I did work a lot. I was working every day after school from like 3 to 11, except Thursdays. I remember Thursdays I was off, but I'd have to work Saturday mornings half a day. But it was cool. It was cool. But I've been in San Diego ever since. I've been doing interpreting since June of 1994. I was young. I think I was 21, 20 when I started.
How'd you get in?
I met an attorney who turned out to be a life mentor for me, Linda King. She was like a mom. She eventually became like a mother to me. She had her law practice. She was on the panel. She did material witness. She was on the material witness panel. And she also had a claims management business at the time. Her office had about 10 or 12 offices in it that she would sublease to attorneys. A lot of them I'm still friends with. And a lot of them are still, or were on the panel, like Robbie's dad, Robbie, and so forth there. So when I started working for Linda, she asked me if I wanted a job. I said, yeah. I wasn't working. She took me to the jail one day, and I was actually kind of worried. I remember we went to MCC, and I thought they weren't going to let me out when I went. I was dressed with my short sleeves back then. I had the tattoos and everything. And so she started taking me, but I had started for a few months. I would just go with her as part of the company, being on payroll. So I wasn't billing, I wasn't getting paid until one day she said, you can bill on your own for that, and they'll pay for your mileage and so forth. And I said, well, show me how to do it. I started working with her, and then with the other attorneys in the office, I thought, hey, I could probably make a good business out of this. And I was learning a lot at the time. At first, translating is difficult. It's hard because some of the attorneys talk fast. There's a lot of legal terms that you have to say, or you have to review documents. that are like plea agreements, 14 pages long with all these big words. But eventually I got it, and I did pretty good. And almost 26 years later, here I am.
How'd you meet Linda?
It's a long story, but my brother Augie was dating this girl at the time, and they tried to hook me up with her best friend. So it was a Saturday morning. I remember there was a big gate. It was a gated community, and there was actually 2 security guards at the little toll house in the front. And when I pulled up, one of them said, "Mr. Esquivias, we've been expecting you." And I was like, whoa. So they let me in. They told me which house it was. I rang the doorbell, and Linda opened the door. And she's like, "Are you Cholo?" And I was like, "Am I who? Are you Cholo?" And I was like, I guess. So she invites me in. My brother and his girlfriend and her friend are not there. So I started talking to Linda on the couch. I think it was, I would say, close to 2 hours. And they never showed up. I'm kind of glad they didn't, because after I saw what her, But anyways, we started talking, and then a few days later, I came home, and my mom was like, "Some lady named Linda King called you, and she wanted you to call her back." So I called her back, and she said, "Did you find a job?" And I was like, "No, I haven't found a job." She said, "Do you want to work in my office?" And I was like, "Yeah, I want to work in your office." And that was it. I think I went in, I interviewed with Wayne Mayer, who was also on the panel, and I still keep in touch with him, through Facebook and stuff. She was godsend.
Yeah, I was lucky.
She came into my life at a tough time. I didn't have a good relationship with my parents, with my family, my brothers and sisters. I was hanging out with friends all the time, and I didn't have a job at that time. And she basically, what she did was she praised me, and about everything that I did, about how good it was, and how smart I am, and how intelligent I am, and how much potential I have. And I really nobody had ever told me any of that stuff all my life. So we became very, very good friends over the years. We would talk every day. I was in her office. I eventually stopped working for her company, because I was doing all the interpreting. But I still had a cubicle in her office, so I was there every day. And if I wouldn't go in, she would call me and say, like, "Are you coming in today?" Or she'd call me at night. Even, she passed away in 2014. And back then I was, maybe 40, my 39, 40. And she would call me at night, and if I didn't answer or respond, she would leave me messages like, "At least call me back and tell me you're okay." And I'm like, I'm 40 years old, and I have kids that are grown, big now. But I owe Linda a lot. And even though I eventually when she passed away, I took over her claims management company. So I have 2 businesses now. I run that. I have a really good vice president of operations that runs that company. I have very good staff, and I have the best receptionist. If you ever watch this, Marcella, my daughter. Yeah. And but interpreting is just something that is kind of like a security blanket for me. I did back in 1999, when my ex-wife Jessica at the time was pregnant with my oldest daughter. I was working with a few attorneys. The caseload back then was a little bit different. Matt Witt lawyers were getting about 2 cases a week. So I was working with about 4 or 5 attorneys, and I was making really good money. I was young. But when my ex-wife got pregnant, she was working full-time, and then she went to part-time, but I wanted to spend time with the baby. And then Marcella was born, and then the following year, 13 months later, my second daughter was born, Ineza, and I wanted to spend time with him. So I cut back a little bit on interpreting, and I was studying real estate. So I was going to real estate school at night, every Wednesday night from 6 to 10. And I took the exam, and I passed. I don't know how I passed it. I think it's the only test that I've ever passed in my life. And that's why my license is so valuable to me. But I passed the test. What I did was I kind of combined real estate with interpreting. So the majority of my business came from people that worked in jails. I sold a lot of houses to people at GEO, Border Patrol, and they would tell their friends, they would tell their co-workers, and so I kind of commingled those two together. And I met a lot of nice people when I was selling real estate, not only clients, but a lot of really nice agents that I still keep in touch with to this day. But then I did really good, and I was able to buy some houses, which is what I really wanted to do, and rent them out, which I still have. I'm very fortunate. I bought them at a really good time. But in about 2000, I guess it was around 2005 or 2006, the market just crashed. And everybody that I knew that was in real estate that was living in a big, huge house, driving Mercedes or BMWs, high-end cars, they were spending money like it was no joke. They lost everything, because when the real estate market crashed, there was no buyers, there was no sellers. I mean, it was like a stale market. And so what I did, I was very fortunate because all I did was just focused on my interpreting, which I never stopped doing. I still always worked with certain attorneys. And a lot of the old attorneys that I used to work with, like Jim Brown and Bob Schroth, they were happy that I came back. So I was lucky enough to not feel the impact of that real estate market crash.
And you like this job?
I love this job. What I like the most about this job is this. I mean, I like interpreting. I like helping people. I like talking to people. There's a lot of times when attorneys, I say exactly what they're saying, but sometimes I say it in a way that could be a little bit nicer because they're a little frustrated, or I do that to protect the attorney, to make look bad. At the same time, to not offend anybody else. People that a lot of the people that I interpret for are not charged with crimes. They're material witnesses, but then there are some that are, and I've never met a bad person in all these years. But I love this job because you go to the jail, you do some work, and then you hang out with a friend.
I guess one thing to explain is to people watching is material witnesses are individuals that are usually transported in the vehicle. They're witnesses.
Right. Step right here. There's probably
we are passing. Right now. We are passing a border patrol agent. But basically, they're individuals that are being transported illegally into the United States. Right. They usually charge the driver with illegal transportation of illegal aliens. And I do have a video, and I can link it above, that talks about transportation of illegal aliens. But the people that are being transported are usually not charged with a crime, and instead they're being witnesses.
That's correct.
So if the criminal defendant decides to go to trial, the U.S. attorney working on the case will call those people to testify as to where they walked through the border, how do they get into the car, and so on. They're usually also the really only people that can identify the defendant in the car, who's the driver transporting them. A lot of times they don't really know much about how the organization works, or why they're being, how much they're paying and who's going to get what portion. But they know some information. That's why they're being kept.
And unfortunately, sometimes the drivers or the coyotes, whether it's a driver or the foot guide, they don't even know. I mean, a lot of these people are just people that are in a bad situation. And they get approached by someone that tells them, hey, I'll give you $200 sometimes. I mean, they risk their freedom. I've seen them as low as $100 for so much money, and you're not going to get caught. All you have to do is drive these people, and they end up getting caught. And it's unfortunate, but you're right.
And this is the majority of our cases here in the Southern District. We are a border district, so we do see a lot of drug cases and a lot of transportation with alien cases. I was actually asking Ricardo earlier what's his sort of interesting case that he remembers the most. He had kind of difficulty trying to identify one, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we get so much repetitive business that few stand out, but a lot of cases sort of repeat themselves.
And also, Anton, to that note, interpreters, at least how I speak for myself, we listen to everything, and we eventually will know everything because we've heard it from both the attorney and the client. But there's sometimes when you're interpreting that you kind of go into like interpreting mode, and you're like a machine.
Yep.
A machine that spits in words in one language, and then or takes in words in one language and spits it out in another.
Yep.
There's been times when I've done it, especially during long sessions, long meetings, when the attorney will ask me, do you remember what she said about, and I don't remember because I couldn't even tell you what we talked about.
Yep.
Whereas I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of investigators don't or can't interpret while they're taking notes, because you have to be focused on the exact words that are coming in and then be able to spit them out in a different language, the exact same words.
Yeah.
So that takes some, it does get tiring after a while. Besides your mouth getting tired, and it gets tiring, but
and everyone has a different preference. I like when I say a couple sentences first, and then I trust Ricardo to remember what I said and then translate it. And then some attorneys like sort of do it as you speak, which I'm not a huge fan, but that's how they do it in court.
You should have told me. I think I've always done it like with you when we do it in real time.
No, we don't.
We don't?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I know we didn't right now because there was a glass and we were in a small room.
No, we never do that.
It's funny because it used to be easier for me when I was younger to do it the way you prefer. Like listen to the attorney, take it in, and then pause, and then say it out. Now, I don't know if it's age or what, but now there's times when I'm listening to an attorney and they're saying that, and at some point they just go on and on and on and on, that it becomes a big like cluster. I don't remember anything they said, and so there's been times when I know I'm going to forget, so I just cut them off and I just tell them. They usually understand and they stop. But I think in certain jails that we go to, there's like Geo, you can't really, or even like CCA, you can't really translate in real time because it's a small room and the voices just bounce around and nobody knows what anybody's saying. And if it's like, what? And where we were today in San Luis, I think it was the same thing. Plus we had the glass in between us.
Yeah.
So but what I do, it was easier for me to do to wait, but now it's easier for me to do the real time. For some reason, I don't know if it's forgetting, but I used to have this fear when Linda, a long time ago, back in the 90s, told me, when you interpret, you always have to read lips, because at some point you can lose your hearing or something, and then you're not going to have a job.
Can you be an interpreter with lips?
And
I don't think so either.
Well, not so much. I guess if I couldn't hear, I probably wouldn't be able to talk either, right? Or I don't know, but,
I don't think you can be an interpreter at that point.
But some people lose their hearing, but you know what? It's funny. It does help, because if I was to lose my hearing, between the listening and the reading of the lips, it kind of it puts the puzzle together, Luckily, I haven't lost my hearing,
Yeah, that is. I think it's a requirement.
What'd you say?
I think it's a requirement.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
I didn't hear. Yeah. I didn't hear what you said. Sorry.
Yeah, good point. Good one. That's one thing that's enjoyable driving with Ricardo, is the constant joking around.
Yeah, I'm a joker.
Yeah.
You like Jason always says. Jason tells us we joke around so much.
Yeah.
And he believes, I believe, I'm sure you believe, we have a job to do. A lot of these people are in a very tough spot because they're not being charged, like the Matwits. They're being held, or they're defendants that are not bad people. I've never met a bad person. They're just made a bad decision.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised when we go in there, before I even start talking to them. A lot of the times I don't even interpret. I just talk.
Yeah.
And the attorney sits there. The attorney knows that I know what to say. But there's a lot of times when you walk in and they're scared. They don't trust you. They're in a foreign country. They miss their families. They're worried. And when you start joking with them, they start to loosen up a little bit. They start to they see that you're a human being like they are. And we always tell them, hey, we have a job to do, and we can either do it one of two ways. We can do it pissed off and come in here mad because we have to do this.
Yeah.
Or we can come in here happy and joke around. We can all joke around, have a few laughs, handle business, and then move forward,
Yeah.
And I agree with that.
Well, a lot of attorneys, I think, forget the human element of this job.
Right.
And it's amazing how far that takes you in the case, and how much easier your case becomes if you have a good relationship with your client. Right?
Exactly.
If your client likes you and trusts you, it's much easier later on as the case progresses. Sometimes we bring bad news, right, to the clients. And if you have a good relationship, he trusts you, and he understands that you're doing your best. You're explaining it the best way you can. You're helping. You're making a difference for them. But if you didn't build that with the client, it's gonna be difficult.
Right. And if you take the approach hey, I'm human just like you. You made a bad choice. I'm going to do my job, but we're going to spend this time together. Let's make the best of it.
Yeah.
I'm human, like I said. We're the same. And then you laugh with them. You talk about personal stuff. A lot of times when the attorneys pause or they're reading something, I make small talk with them. How many kids you have? Where are you going? What do you, they talk about their life, their family. I talk about my kids.
Yeah.
My life. And you're right, because those are the cases where it irons out a nice path, and they trust you. They see that you're just like them. They're not intimidated. And not only do they see that you're just like them, that you demonstrate that you're just like them. It's okay. It's cool, and it does make everything a lot easier. I've had cases over the years where I get these Facebook requests from people that I don't even know. And it's one of a past client that will send me an email or a message saying, hey, that was a tough time. You made it a lot easier. And we used to laugh so much. I used to look forward to your and the attorney visits, and I think it's important. There was one time out here in Arizona. I don't remember who I was with, but I was in a bad mood. It was a bad day. It was like Anton said earlier, it's a 4-hour drive. And I saw this group of people, and there was this one guy that he wasn't being mean or anything, but he was wasn't getting it, and I was getting frustrated. So I raised my voice a little bit, which I shouldn't have done. I raised my voice a little bit, and then because you talk to them as a whole first, and then with the material witnesses, and so you talk individual, get some information from them. Well, when I asked him how old he was, he had just turned 18. And this was about when my oldest daughter was 18, and I thought to myself, this is a baby. This is a kid who's in a jail by himself, doesn't know anybody, in a foreign country, and here I am getting upset with him. So, I apologize very easy. I have no problem apologizing when I know that I was wrong.
Yeah.
And I did. And when the interview was over, I think it was 3 or 4 guys. When the interview was over, the officer came to get the inmates, and I know the officers because I'm there all the time. I asked the female officer, I said, hey, would you mind if I give that kid a hug? And she looked at me and she's like, no, I think that would be really nice. And I gave him a hug and I apologized and I said, hey, I promise you that your attorney is going to do everything to get you out of here. I'm going to help him and we're going to get you home. This is going to pass. Don't worry. And he started crying, and it was an important moment because when he started crying, I teared up, and then the attorney teared up, and then the officer teared up. And later that day, after she took him back and we walked out, she told me, she said, what you did, I've never seen before. That was very special of you to hug them and make them feel like, these people don't have anybody. They're away from their family. And I told the officer, that kid is a baby. I mean, he's my daughter's age. My daughter has friends that come over that I see them as little kids, and this one's in the jail,
Yeah.
So I think the human aspect is very important in your job, in our job.
Yeah.
Because like you said, sometimes the attorneys, they forget they forget that they're dealing with somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's mother, you know, somebody's father. They're dealing with the person that means the world to someone.
Yeah. Well, that's why I always try to have my client out on bond. Right. Is because I always tell, you know, the parents or the family, whoever is going to bond them out, that this person is going to look differently in regular clothes than uniform. Right. It makes a huge difference, and it makes a difference for me as a human, but judges are human too, and we do treat people differently, even though judges know that you're out on bond or if you're in custody. The way you look makes a difference.
It does.
And it is much harder to put someone back into prison after they're out on bond, because you present evidence that this person is out, he's doing well. This, of course, if the person is doing well. But if they're doing well, you know, they have a couple jobs, they go to school, and they present themselves like they're trying to change their life, it's much more difficult for the judge to put that person in prison versus the person that spent the last 6 months already in custody. The judge might go, well, you know, he's done the last 6 months, he can do some more. And that's not necessarily true, you know, and I'm sure judges are make good, you know, decisions and try to evaluate the case on the facts. But I think they're human too, and they are, and they look at people differently because all of us do. It's just a reality of how our eyes work and how the situation works.
And I think it's time for wine. Oh
yeah.
No, I think
we're taking an exit.
We're taking an exit. Yeah, I also
we'll have to pause this. This should be this is gonna be a 2-part video.
Or can we take it with us and have they can watch us have a drink?
Yeah.
But to that, I think just like a person who works at the DMV who's mean, you know, we sometimes think of these people as like they're so mean, they're so angry, but we don't think about how long they've been there or what they've had to deal with.
You know what's really funny about DMV before we go in? So
I've never been into this one.
That's where we're going.
Oh, okay.
I just purchased a 69 Chevy C10. You know that.
Yeah.
So I went into
the one that left you on the.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I went in to register it, and the woman that was working there, I said, "How long you've been here?" And before she could answer, I said, "I moved to San Diego about 8 years ago," and she was the first DMV employee to give me the California she gave me a new driver's license because I had to change my address. I already lived in California, but she gave me a new driver's license, and she registered like my car. She was the first person in San Diego at the DMV. Wow. And she was like, well, I don't remember you. We have so many people go through.
Yeah.
I said, well, I really remember you. And she was super nice. Even this time around, she was super nice to me.
I think, I haven't had very many good experiences at the DMV. I try not to go there. It's like every time I go there, I see someone I know. Have you noticed? Has it happened to you? Every time I go to the DMV, I see someone I know, whether from high school or whatever. And it's like, I try to do everything online now, and I don't understand why the lines are so long there. Everything should be
You got to make
online.
an appointment.
Yeah. Well, no, not even. You can like renew your registration online. Yeah. I think I renewed my driver's license online, but I went there because Marcia, my daughter, got personal plates. She personalized her license plates. It was, the car's in my name because she ordered them. She bought them. I felt really bad because she's working and she doesn't have time to go to the DMV, so I thought I was going to surprise her. And I waited in line in Normal Heights for almost 3 hours. Well, not in line. You take a number and then you wait. Almost 3 hours. And then when I got up there, the lady was like, well, do you have something signed by your daughter that says that you can pick them up? Because she ordered them, so she owns them. And I was like, I don't have anything. And in my head, I'm thinking, I know you're not going to tell me that you're not going to give them to me after all this time. What car is this? The Range Rover.
Oh.
The white Range Rover.
Yeah.
So
his license plate say cutie pie.
No,
so she's like, clearly not yours.
Honey bun. No, it had her name. It's in Marseille. So
okay.
So I was like, look, let me explain something to you, lady. I waited in line all this time. The car belongs to me. I bought it. I pay it. It's in my name.
Yeah.
I gave it to my daughter. She ordered the license plates. These license plates are gonna go on my car.
Yeah.
And she's like, I understand that, but it's not about that. She ordered them. They belong to her. I need something from her signed that, And I said, well, can I call her and can you tell her? Can she just tell you over the phone? And she's like, no, I need something signed. But I'll tell you what. Go get something signed, and if you come back today, just come to me and I'll let them know. And she was really nice about it. I actually went to the parking lot and
Is this a story where you don't like the DMV, or is this a story where you actually kind of like the DMV?
It was a bad experience that kind of turned into a nice one, because I think I was being nice to her and I was respecting her, and I think I even complimented her nails or something, just because I wanted her to give me the damn license plate. And I went and I got, my daughter to sign the document, and I brought it back and she gave them to me. But there's been other times in the past when I've gone to the DMV and they're just mean. Yeah, it's like, it's kind of like going to the dog pound and there's like a vicious dog there that just wants to get you, But then I guess we don't realize what they go through and what they've had to deal with, all those years with somebody yelling at them. Or, I'm sure they get yelled at a lot.
Yeah.
But
all right, let's do part 2.
Let's get a drink. That was a fast trip, man. I gotta go back tomorrow.
All this podcasting?
Yeah, no, tomorrow I gotta go back to the jail.
This going fast because all the podcasting.
Yeah, it made it go fast, and plus, good company. We always have a good time when we go, and I'm not driving, so that makes it better.
Yeah.
And you drive kind of good. No, you're a good driver. You're a good driver. Bunch of old trucks.
Thanks for being on my channel. I'll close it off with all those compliments.
Yeah, good things. Great man. See you guys.